Hey everyone, it's Eric Snell, the author of the Fit Businessman book. And today we're going to discuss upper body plyometrics, what it is, and why you should consider using it, even if you're a regular worker like me, you don't do any specific sport, but you just want some variation in your training and you want to have fun. Now, I call it upper body plyometrics so it's easy to understand. Plyometrics, when you hear the word, you think about jumping. That's probably the first thing that pops into your mind. Well, standing on your hands and jumping, yeah, maybe that's plyometrics really for the upper body. But I'm thinking more plyometrics in the sense of maybe throwing something. So football is not really plyometrics where you kick something. Baseball, is that plyometrics? Sort of. Any kind of throw that we do with the upper body can really activate fast twitch muscle fibers. And even though it's called fast twitch muscle fibers, it doesn't mean that the movement has to be fast. The body recruits fast twitch muscle fibers when it needs to. So when it's required to, when the slow twitch muscle fibers don't do the work properly. And that means that the body will recruit them if it lifts a really, really heavy load. So if you have a lot of resistance, like a really heavy deadlift, you will actually activate also fast twitch muscle fibers. But also, of course, the speed when you do something. And now that we're living in solitary confinement, we can't really go to a gym where we have these heavy weights. If we want to trigger the fast twitch muscle fibers, we can alternatively use quickness instead. And this is sort of the basics of the explosive mode principles as well. So if you're outdoors and you have opportunity to do upper body plyometrics, what type of exercises can you do? Well, when we look at just exercises that you can do without using let's say a medicine ball, maybe the first thing that comes to mind is the push-ups, plyometric push-ups. You know, these push-ups where people clap their hands in between. And these push-ups, they're sort of plyometric, right? And they're a little bit similar to doing squat jump with a barbell on your back. So it's sort of a single attempt done multiple times. And you can, of course, do it in different ways because a plyometric push-up is not that easy to perform. So what you can do is you can do it against a fence. So instead of having the hands on the floor or on the ground, you would have them leaning towards something. And you just push yourself up. So you have a little bit of air time, and reactively and dynamically you push yourself up off the wall or the fence. And this way you get a sort of a plyometric workout. It's also quite easy to regulate the resistance by changing the position. So if you want to do it more difficult, you can place your feet on a bench. That way it's more like an incline bench press. And then, of course, if you want to have resistance and you want to really engage the chest, you can use a medicine ball. And here, there's different ways to do it. If you have a wall or a really nice facility where you can really throw the ball as hard as you can do chest passes. And this, if you're outdoors, I would suggest, of course, that you throw towards a wall. But if you're indoors, you can actually use a medicine ball and position yourself so that almost like in a bench press, you can either lay on a bench or alternatively on a big fitness ball, like a Bosu ball, and look at the ceiling and you throw the ball, very carefully though, up in the air. And there, I like personally to do two different variations. One that's more like a side throw in soccer, so over the head, or then simply up from the chest. And if you want to really feel a burn in your upper pecs. I know a lot of people, they want to see like a line between their pecs. If you want to have a feeling like you get really blood accumulated there, what you can do is outdoors or where we have a wall, you throw a medicine ball and you keep it close to your body, so your elbows are close to each other, and when you throw it up in the air, and when you get it back, you throw it again, and you do 20 throws. And here again, I would recommend that you use very light weights. So myself, I don't go heavier than 5 kilos with a medicine ball. I think it's more important that you do it safely and dynamically and with speed than that you would risk an injury, because these medicine balls are quite dangerous, especially when you try to catch them, and they might bounce off the wall a little bit suddenly, and maybe your elbow is not in the correct position, maybe your shoulder is not in the correct position, and you might actually get injured very easily. So I will use very light resistance. Now, if you're in a gym setting, and some of you guys, I know you have home gyms and you probably have a bench press. If you're really advanced, you have a Smith machine. There's a possibility, and you might have seen this, some people in the gym, they actually use the Smith machine and they throw the barbell up in the air. So in the Smith machine, it goes a certain path straight up, right? And it's attached, so it will come down. And it's almost like a guillotine. And this is really dangerous, and I would really proceed with caution if I would go that route. Now, when we look at plyometrics in a sense of just doing the concentric portion, so let's say you're doing stair runs or jumping, let's say you're bounding up the stairs. So you're taking sort of long steps, but you're jumping from one step to the other. You're basically just pushing. You're just pushing. You're not recovering. If you will be on the ground, you have an eccentric portion where you go down. But when you go up the stairs, it's just concentric pushes. And how can you sort of mirror this for the upper body? Well, one exercise that I would recommend is to use a medicine ball, and this is for the shoulders. And you have a medicine ball that you keep here, right next to your shoulder, and you push it up in the air and you throw it. You let it bounce one time so it comes up, or twice, depending on how high you throw it. That, we'll see how high it will bounce. For me, if it bounces once, I can catch it with the other hand about at shoulder height, and I can again push up and throw the ball. And then if I want to engage my whole body, of course, I can bend the knees, give it a really like a dynamic push. It's a full body movement, sort of. Or if I want to isolate the shoulder, I just do it with the shoulder. But I can go one side, the other side, let it bounce. One side, the other side. And then I tend to do these games in my head. So I do, every other one, or I'll do 5 and 5, 4, 4, 3, 3, 2, 2, 1, 1, and then it accumulates to quite a lot. And doing this, just the concentric part, is really nice sometimes, because I like to stress the fact that you break down a lot of muscle tissue when doing the eccentric portion, the lowering, and that's always an option. But if you want to go really plyometric and really sort of fast, explosive, you can just do the concentric part. And of course, you can do it with any throw, that you would just throw it up in the air, let it bounce, and throw it up again. And then, of course, we have the overhead throws, the backwards and forwards. But let's say you want to use this eccentric training principle. Maybe the easiest way to do it with a medicine ball is to throw it with two hands upwards, and then you catch it with one. So when you go and buy that medicine ball, if you don't have one, you got to make sure the size, the physical size of it, not just the weight, but the size of it is such that you can actually keep it in one hand. So if you have a ball that's the size that you can really catch it with one hand, and if you have a smaller hand, look for something smaller so that you can catch it with one hand. Then you have much more variation in your training. If you have a ball that you have to keep with both hands, it's going to be difficult to do movements and where you can just use one side of the body. Also, for younger athletes, kids, why not use a basketball or any type of ball where you can throw it? So if you have a wall, you can throw it overhead. You can throw it sideways. You can throw it in a lot of different ways, and you don't necessarily have to use a medicine ball. And of course, the younger the athlete, the less resistance you should use. And I think it's always good to use the lighter weights. Even, I don't care how strong you are, it's better to use lighter weight and go really, really fast. You can then in the gym, there you can go and do your 200 kilo bench press. Go ahead. But when you want to be dynamic and really surprise your body, then go light. And if you have a wall or a net you can throw in, whatever the implement you have, maybe it's a discus, maybe it's a shot put, maybe it's a hammer, maybe it's just a piece of wood. Whatever you have, just go light so you don't get injured. Because even a couple more kilos, and if you do the wrong position, you will get injured really quickly. Now, then the question is, if you throw objects that you're used to throw with one hand, and usually that's your dominant side, can you throw with the other side? It's actually not that easy, but it would seem that, let's say, you want to train for softball or baseball, and you keep throwing with your right arm. Now, you're going to have some imbalances in your body if you just do that. So you have to try to do something similar on the other side. And this is not that easy. So what I suggest, actually, it's good coordination training as well, is to try with a tennis ball and tennis racket. This is also sort of plyometric. We could call it plyometric. And you can use one arm, of course, very easily to hit the ball in the wall, get it back, and then try the other hand. And it's also a coordination training that's very good for any sport, to be able to use both sides of your body. It's strange how difficult it is to kick the ball with the left foot for me. But things like this you can practice, and it also brings a element of fun, especially when you're training with young athletes, and they know how good they are, and they know exactly who's the fastest, who's the strongest in the team, in the group. But when you switch it up a bit and say, okay, let's take it on the other side, and it brings an element of fun there, because suddenly everyone's on the same starting line. So this is a small bit of inspiration for you to maybe order a medicine ball if you don't have one, and think about training outdoors. You can do your handstand push-ups, really have that heavy weight, but you don't necessarily need to stick to push-ups and pull-ups. You can use medicine balls to throw, and if you want to be experimental with your body weight, do the plyometric push-ups. You can do plyometric dips as well. It's a little bit challenging, but it's not a problem to do. You can do plyometric pull-ups where you release the pull-up bar. Just go out and have fun. I'm Eric Snell, the author of the Fit Businessman book, and I'll see you at work.